So I've been constantly getting questions about niche research. Everyone thinks this is the most difficult part, but it's actually super, super easy. You've been making the same mistake that I've been making. And I promise you, you're making this mistake because this is what every YouTuber is teaching you. And it's what I was taught as well. But as soon as I kind of woke up from what people were teaching me and tried to figure it out on my own, I realized, why am I doing this? Why is everyone doing this? And what am I talking about? I'm talking about looking at the search results. Everyone is going to tell you, look at the number of search results. If it's under 1,000, then it's good. If it's over 3,000, then it's bad. I realized that all of that is pointless. And let me tell you why. Before I show you why search results are pointless to look at, here's what you're actually looking for when it comes to niche research. So you can only have 4 niches, correct? Now everyone is teaching you one correct thing, which is you need a niche with high demand and low supply. So if we have supply right here and we have demand right here, here we have low, this one's low as well, high and high. So if you have a niche with low supply and low demand, what does that mean? That means not only are there barely any books in the niche, no one is actually searching for it, no one's actually buying those books. So do you want to make books that no one's buying? Obviously not. What about high supply and low demand? Well, let's say there's 50 books that are available in that niche, but again, no one is buying them. Do you want to make books that no one's buying? Of course not. So you're not looking for this one either. What about if you have low supply and high demand? What does that mean? It means there's only 5 books and all of them are selling because there's high demand for them and there's not enough to fulfill the marketplace. So do you want to make a book with a low supply and high demand? Yes, you do, because it'll be very easy for you to compete. You don't have a lot of people to compete with and everyone's already buying the books anyway. So it'll be very easy for you to sell. Now, what about this last one? This is where people find it tricky. Do you want to publish in a niche with high supply and high demand? Personally, I don't like publishing in this niche, but some people do. But here's the problems with publishing in a niche with high supply and high demand. Yes, there's loads of traffic. I agree with you. But usually these niches have very broad keywords. And for you to rank for broad keywords, you need to spend a lot on ads. So ads are going to be super expensive. You might get some low-hanging fruits and all of that, but it's not just about being broad. If you look at these niches with a high supply and high demand, most of these books have been on there for years. And what does that mean? It means that most of them have thousands of reviews. So when you go and publish your book, how are you supposed to compete with a high amount of books with thousands of reviews and a high budget on ads and are already ranking for these broad terms? It'll be very hard for you to do so. Not impossible. I'm not saying you can't succeed by publishing in a niche with high demand and high supply, but you have a higher chance of success if you publish in this niche. So the important question is, how do you find this niche? Now we're going to talk about the search results, which is the most pointless thing you can look at. And I'm going to tell you why. So everyone's telling you, look at the search result. When you go on Amazon and you search for, let's say, ignore this. Let's say you have a vegetarian cookbook for beginners. So you have a vegetarian cookbook for beginners. You're going to go on Amazon and then you're going to open up the page. You're going to type in the keyword up here in the search bar. You're going to type in the keyword vegetarian cookbook for beginners, and then a bunch of books are going to come up. Correct? Correct. Now, if you go up here in the corner, you're going to see search results 3,000 or search results 5,000 or 10,000 or 1,000 or whatever the number is. And everyone is telling you, look at this number. If this number is 3,000 or less, then it's a good niche. There's low supply. That's not true. Why is that not true? Well, guess what? If you type in vegetarian cookbook for beginners, how many pages? Let's say this is 3,000 results. How many pages is that? It's probably over 30 pages. So you have over 30 pages of results. Correct? Correct. Let's just assume it's 30. Are you telling me that every single book in these 30 pages is a competitor of yours? All of them are vegetarian cookbook for beginners? No. And I can prove it to you. Type in whatever search term you want on Amazon right now. You can pause the video and go do it. Type in whatever search term you want on Amazon. If it's 30 pages, go to the middle page. Go on page 15. If it's 20 pages, go on page 10. Go on the page and look at all the books. Are they all relevant to what you search for? Most likely not. So first of all, most of them are irrelevant. And when a book is irrelevant, that's not your competition. You're not competing with books that aren't even in your niche. So you can wipe out a bunch of them. Let's say 1,000 of them. There's 1,000 left. But guess what? Does anyone even go on page 30? Have you ever been on page 30? You've probably maximum been on page 3. And to be honest with you, I did my research. 80% of people don't go on page 2. which means 20% of people go on page 2, and it's even less for page 3. So you're not really competing against the people on page 2. You're only competing against the people on page 1 for your relevant search term. So 80% of the books that show up in the search results are still not your competitors because they're not even on page 1. No one is even looking at them. How can they be your competitor when no one knows they exist? So that lowers the number even more. So for them to be on page 30, they have a low ranking. They're not your competitors. Third, some books on page 1, or even if you click on a vegetarian cookbook and you go down and you look at the carousels on the bottom of other related books, most of them are not selling. You can have vegetarian cookbooks for beginners that are not selling. Well, tell me, is this your competition? If a book is not selling, how is it your competition? That's like saying a disabled man with no legs is your competition in a race. He can't run. He can't even walk. How is he your competition? Now, I agree, these books are helpful in the future when you're going to run ads. You definitely need them. But they're not your competition, they're your friend, because you're going to use these to steal the traffic that clicks on these books so you can get more sales. But they're not your competition because no one is buying them. So most of the books are irrelevant. Most of the books have a low ranking and they're on page 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 30. And other books are not selling. So these 3 are not your competition, which make up around 95% of the books that these search results are showing. So what do you actually have to do? What do you actually have to look for? Your competitors are only the books that are selling. Write it really big so you can see. Only the books that are selling are your competitors. So if you go on page 1 and this guy's selling, this guy's selling, this guy's selling, this guy's selling, and this guy's not selling, these 4 are your competitors. You're going to use this guy later on for ads, but that's for another video. But these 4 guys are your competitors. These are the people you're competing with, not the other random books on page 30, which is why don't look at the search results. Go in and see which one of these guys are selling. By the way, when I say selling, I mean they have an ABSR number of at least 100,000 or below. That means they're selling at least 1 copy a day. So you can count them as a competitor if they're selling at least 1 copy a day. But anyway, your competitors are only books in your niche that is highly relevant for your niche that are selling. It's not any irrelevant people or irrelevant books. It's not any books ranking on page 5. And it's not any books that aren't selling because you're not competitors. They're not competitors because no one's buying them. Do you think Tesla is competing with ladders? No. No one's buying ladders anymore. Yeah, some people are buying, but they're not producing them or anything. So Tesla's not going to be like, oh, how do we beat ladder? No, they're irrelevant. So when you're doing your niche research, look at the competitors that are highly relevant for your book and they're selling. And you're going to do a much better job at figuring out how to compete with them to make a better book so you can compete in that niche. Now, there's other things you need to look at, but this is the main thing you need to understand. Because I see a lot of you guys, you come and say, oh, this niche has 5,000 results. I'm not going to compete in it. Yeah, but how many of them are actually selling? How many of them are actually your competitors, not random books? So I hope this was helpful. There's a lot more that goes into niche research, but this is one of the most important things you need to know. Once I figured this out, a lot more niches opened up for me, and I started making books in niches that other people thought were competitive, but turns out there was only 4 books selling. So I only had 4 competitors, while everyone else assumed that there was 3,000 results. Oh, it's 3,000 competitors. So yeah, I hope this was helpful and go make a bunch of money.